Hi, in the last video demonstration, we took a look at creating some textures in a two-dimensional program like Photoshop. In this video demonstration, we're going to cover how to put those various different sides of the crate textures that we created onto a 3D object here in 3D Studio using a specific set of shaders called a multi-sub-object shader. If you paid attention towards the end of the last video demonstration when I told you that it is a very recommended and very good idea to continue on and sort of with the lesson and kind of on your own create some different sides to a crate, because every crate has 6 very different sides. Rarely do they all look exactly the same with exactly the same stamps and exactly the same wood structure, etc. If you did that, well done. If you didn't, shame on you for being lazy, and you probably will have noticed that along with this lesson there is a set of files to download with it so that you can follow along with us still. I have gone ahead myself and created several different sides to a crate texture. I have included for this little follow along, if you want to follow along exactly with me, if you want to use your own, that's fine as well. A single bump file. This just got some wood grain. I kind of took out some of the other stuff maybe that was not quite as necessary, like for a bump map, like our raised lettering and stuff like that, just to make it easier on us. You'll find 5 different versions of a diffuse texture for 5 different sides of a crate, one kind of plain with a fragile stamp in a couple of different locations, etc. And you'll find at least 3 different specularity maps for those sides of the crate that have some paint on them, or for that idea of maybe a little piece of box tape or something else like that that we were talking about in the last demonstration as well. These 5 sides we will use to create our 6-sided crate. One of them will have to be the same, which is probably going to be our nice blank wood, but that'll be more than sufficient to get us done what we need to do today. Save these files wherever you downloaded them to, and remember where you downloaded to, because we will be using them in 3D Studio here. To get going, open a brand new file in 3D Studio, and we are going to create, to begin with anyway, a very simple object for us to texture using this multi-sub-object texturing idea. I'm going to create a box. So on our Create tab, under the geometry, just toggle on box, and in one of these views, I'll probably do my top view here, just drag and draw out a box. We'll change the settings here in a moment so that all of ours matches just fine. Then I'm going to get my Move tool up here at the top, and I'm just going to kind of come down here to the XYZ coordinates and right-click on all of these XYZ so that it zeroes out and puts this crate right in the middle of our virtual world for us. Just a quick way of zeroing out those coordinates so that our box isn't kind of sitting cockeyed halfway off of our grid, and it gives us a better place to start from. Then we're going to go over to our Modify tab here, where we've got the settings for our box, and we want to make sure that this crate is fairly square, as are the textures that we created for it. So I'm just going to put some round numbers in here. Length of 75, width of 75, and height of 75 should do us just fine for this. The segments can all stay at 1 for this particular demonstration, just so that we can get these textures working. And then in order to use the multi-sub-object texture, you have to have an editable poly. There are a couple of ways of getting one. We have the Edit Poly modifier that you can add to the top of this box if you want to keep your box's original settings. I like to kind of save real estate when I know I'm ready to move on. You can also right-click on this box and open up your quad menu there, and in the Convert To menu, you can convert it to an editable poly. Not Mesh or any of the others. Go to Editable Poly. It's the best one for this. Your box settings will then disappear. In fact, it will no longer actually be a box. It is now a polygon model. Still looks exactly the same, still has 6 sides just like a box. Even the name still says box. We can change that if we like to crate, since that's what we're about to make. But all of the tools for Edit Poly modeling are now at your disposal. The ones we're truly going to need in this are going to be our polygon sub-objects. right? So if I turn on my polygon subobject, again, if you hit the little black plus sign up here, you can select by name or the little red buttons down here by icon. The polygon one allows us to select individual faces. If we want to put 5 very different textures on the various sides of this box, then we're going to need to have a way of assigning those textures to specific faces or polygons of this box. Go ahead and unselect that polygon subobject for now. We're not ready for that quite yet. We still need to build our texture, but that at least gives us a place to start while we're building our crate here and texturing each side with a different image. Then we can jump right into our material editor. Go ahead and hit M on your keyboards or click the little icon up here at the very top. And your material editor will open here. We've got it was a brand new scene, so we've got nothing but empty slots here. Go ahead and select that first one. And there are a few different ways that we can actually attain a multi-sub object. One would be to make 5 very different textures, each in its own slot, and then simply assign them individually to the face, which will automatically create one. But we're going to go about it kind of the textures way here rather than the kind of modeling way. And we're going to change our standard shader here to this different kind of version here to do this. So go ahead and click on that button that now says standard up here in the upper right hand corner. And under the standard menu here, you will find multi/sub object shaders. Go ahead and select that one and say OK. When the dialog box that says replace material comes up and asks you if you'd like to either discard it or keep the old material as a submaterial, we are going to have standard shaders as our submaterial, so just go ahead and say keep old material and click the OK button. Your top level of your shader, as far as settings are concerned, will now have changed. That button will no longer say standard, it now says multi/sub object. And then you'll see a list of various numbered texture slots that we can dig into, each one of these being a different brand new texture, although they're all housed in one shader here for us. Just to make sure we're all on the same page, I'm going to go ahead and change my render setup to mental ray. If you have not already done that, you probably should have. And we'll kind of continue on from here. Our crate has 6 different sides. We have a default of 10 different submaterials that we're going to use. We don't need 10, right? We only need 6. That being said, I've only created 5 for a specific reason so that we can actually show you some stuff later on today. So all we truly need are 5 different textures to work with in this list. Right now it defaults us with 10. There's a few ways we can do this. We can either select the ones at the bottom and hit the delete button to get rid of them, or we could just go in here to the set number button and tell it 5 and say OK to get our 5 textures. In the first one, it's got our default standard texture. That's the one that we said go ahead and keep this as a submaterial for us already. We want 4 more of those kind of standard textures. So how we're going to do that is kind of just click and drag down to the bottom one. Make sure we select copy, not instance. If it was an instance, anything we did to one of them would automatically happen to the other. We want them to be different, so we have to select copy here and say OK. And just kind of do that down for the rest of them as well. That'll give us a nice place to start. You will notice here that we've got just 5 default standard textures. There's a small thumbnail on the side, followed by an ID number, which will become very important here in the future. And then you can give them each a name, even if it's something simple like crate 1, crate 2, etc. Just to keep things straight and clean. You can also be a little bit more descriptive in the future in case you have, want to remember some specific information about these things. Next to that is your actual channel button. Clicking on this will dig into that texture, giving us a submaterial, which is a brand new standard shader. Hitting the Go To Parent button at this point backs you out to the very top, which is now a multi-sub-object texture rather than having that default standard as your very top of that stack. On the right-hand side, you'll see a small color swatch. I like to kind of differentiate these a little bit by just kind of giving them a different color so that each side of this box is a little bit better for me. You'll notice that the diffuse color swatch automatically changes when you go ahead and click on these color swatches and give them a different color. I'm just going to kind of go hidden through here and rainbow color these guys out just so that we've got something that we can differentiate these various textures for. Right off the bat, if I go ahead and double click on our sample slot, you'll see that we've got our sample sphere here now with 3 stripes of our different submaterials on them. So changing those colors really allows us to see exactly what's going on here. And what's going on here is we have 5 different textures on one single object. That's what our multi-sub-object textures are good at doing. If we go ahead and click, drag, and drop this onto our box, you will see that our box kind of comes with some standard ways of displaying our multi-sub-object texture. It's chosen 2 random sides to be the same since we've got 6 sides to our box, and then all the others are a different color of that rainbow. That kind of gives you a good clean idea of how these multi-sub-object textures are working. Per face is displaying one of these specific ID materials. As we go through here, we're going to go in and modify all of these default standard textures and make them look a little bit more like crates here. Let's dig into the very, very first one here. So go ahead and click on that top material ID number 1 default standard texture to jump in there. You'll notice that the diffuse color swatch is red because that's what we changed it to on the outside, and those are tied together. But our channel button here is empty. We can also open up our maps rollout, which we talked about a week or 2 ago. And you can find all of your various different channels for these texture maps: diffuse, specular, and bump. In the diffuse color channel slot, right now it says none. Go ahead and click on that none button, and it'll open up our material map browser. We're going to select bitmap from the top of that list. Bitmap is 3D Studio's way of saying image. So anytime you have an outside image file, such as a photograph or something you made in a program like Photoshop, you're going to use this bitmap to go find it. So select bitmap, hit the OK button, and a browser window should open up for you. Wherever you did save those textures that you downloaded for this lesson, go find them. On module 3 here, and here are my finished crate textures. And they're all labeled for us: crate 1, crate 2, 3, 4, and 5. Some of the other ones we've got a bump and a couple of specs. But crate 1 here is what we want to do. Crate 1 comes with a bump and a crate 1 specular map. So for the diffuse channel, we want to load in the one that is colorful. Say open and select crate 1. It will take you into the bitmap settings, which is some very basic ways of manipulating and changing how an image works. But the image that we did load in is going to be this side of the crate with kind of our fragile handle with care stamp here, and then our like little glass fragile stamp down here in the corner. Double warning to those crazy postal workers. We don't need to make any changes in here. This is all fine. We did all of our work inside Photoshop, so manipulating them in here, at least for this particular demonstration, is useless to us. So we are going to go ahead and hit that Go To Parent button to back up 1 step. And at this point, this is our red slot, right? So we should have these 2 polygons that have that red crate 1 standard default texture with our new image here. Remember that in order to see these inside our viewport, we have to hit this little button up here called the Show Shaded Material in Viewport toggle. It's the 4th one in from the right-hand side underneath your sample slots. Toggle it on, and that red will change from red to that image that we created in Photoshop with our fragile handle with care stamp. At this point, we've got some other information that we want to load in, a bump map and a specular level map. As wood's kind of a dielectric material, it does not conduct electricity, so we don't have to worry about the specular color map so much. We can leave it as white or adjust it as far as what color our light is going to be here in the future. But our specular level map is the one that we went ahead and created inside Photoshop. That's how shiny specific areas of this texture are going to be. In other words, if there's our shiny piece of box tape down here in this empty area, which is invisible box tape for a reason, right? So you can't see it. However, it happens to be a lot more shiny than our wood grain is. Also, we've got some paint where we painted on our fragile warnings onto this wooden crate that's probably at least a little bit glossier than our actual wood background. So in this specular level slot, go ahead and click on that None channel button as well. Select Bitmap and OK. And then the one that matches it is our Crate 1. Since Crate 1 was our diffuse, Crate 1 Spec is our Crate 1 specular map. And go ahead and select that one and say Open. Once again, you'll find yourself in the bitmap settings. We need to make no changes in here, so just go ahead and click that Go to Parent button once to back right back out. In our sample slot here, we should start seeing that now our letters with our paint on them are quite a bit more glossy looking than the wood next door to it. Also, we've got a bump map. I made one standard one to go for all of the sides. If I was doing this professionally, I'd probably have a different bump map as well for each side so that we'd have a little bit of those raised letterings and stuff like that. But just to save ourselves some time and file size for downloads, I've got just the generic kind of a wood grain bump texture. We're going to go ahead and click that Bump None channel button and select Bitmap once again, OK, and then just load in the only bump map that I had given you there. Say OK. Again, you find yourself in the bitmap settings. Go ahead and hit that Go to Parent button to back out once. If I double click to open my sample slot here now, we should see some actual wood grain looking texture along with our specularity and our diffuse images. This would be the first in our 6 sides of our crate. Now it's got the same one for the top and one of the sides of the crate. We will be changing that in the future just to make it look a little bit better. But for right now, we can come up to the top of the shader and we can call this one, instead of default 1, crate side number 1. And then we'll hit that Go to Parent button one more time to back out to our multi-sub object textures. Now instead of default 1, it says crate number 1 inside our submaterial channel button there. Double-clicking the sample slot now shows that where there was red stripe at the top, followed by yellow, green, blue, and purple, we now have that little sample of that one-sided fragile crate stamp there showing up. We're going to go in through the next 4 here and do the same thing. Crate number 2, go ahead and click on the 01 default standard texture to dig into it. You can immediately kind of give this one a name, crate side number 2. And you can also go ahead and turn on that show shaded material in viewport just to get ahead of the game there a little bit. And then inside that diffuse channel button, either here or in our maps rollout, diffuse color, click on that and select bitmap and OK. Crate number 2 diffuse is again the color one labeled number 2. Go ahead and select that, say open. No changes need to be made in our bitmap, so we'll kind of carry on a little swiftly here. Go ahead and hit that Go to Parent button to back out. And then just down in our specular level, we can go through, click it, select bitmap, OK, and crate number 2 has a specular map as well. After this, the next one we need will be crate 4. 3 does not need a specular map. And 5 is the same specular map as crate 1. The only difference between the diffuse on crate 1 and 5 is that I added a little bit of a burn mark in there so that wood doesn't look exactly the same from both sides. All right, so select crate 2 spec and say open. Hit that Go to Parent button to back out one step. And again, down to our bump map, the same thing. Click that None channel button, select bitmap from the list, and load in the only bump map that you've got for this. Then we're going to hit that Go to Parent button once to back out. Let's find that yellow side. There it is on the bottom of our crate, it looks like, default. Now this side has one without that fragile stamp on it as well. So that gives us two different sides to this crate, and that's how these multi-sub-object textures work here. As soon as we finish making each of these textures for all of these colorful sides, I'll show you how to reorganize them so that you can display whichever ones you want on specific polygons or sides or faces of this box. In our textures, in our material editor, go ahead and hit that Go to Parent button to back out one more time. And we'll quickly go through these next three because it's just the same steps over and over again with loading in some different images. Click on that Crate 3 channel button. Go ahead and give it a name, Crate Side number 3, just to keep things organized. And go ahead and toggle on that Show Shaded Material in Viewport button. From here we can go directly to our diffuse channel with this little empty None button when you hover over next to our diffuse color swatch. It takes you to the same place, so go ahead and click that one this time and select Bitmap from the list. OK. And select Crate 3, which is just our woods, no fragile stamps or anything else, and say Open. Go ahead and hit that Go to Parent button to back out once. This one did not have a specular level. It did, however, have a bump map that kind of goes with all the sides. So open up that Maps rollout, find your bump channel, and click that None button. Select Bitmap, and add in that bump. And then hit the Go to Parent once to back out to Crate Side number 3 shader, and twice to get back out to our material sub-object. Crate Side 3, the empty one, no stamps or anything, now shows up on our box instead of the color green. Our next one is blue. Let's go take a look at this blue side here. Again, dig into the channel button here that says default right now in our submaterials for Crate Side number 4. And right away we'll give this a name. We'll call it Crate Side number 4. And we'll go ahead and toggle on that Show Shaded Material in Viewport because we do want to see it in our viewport here. This one is Crate Side number 4. We'll go into our diffuse channel button here, select Bitmap, and load in the diffuse or the colorful image of Crate Side number 4 with our fragile sticker kind of going catty corner diagonal along the box this time, and say Open. No changes need to be made in the bitmap, so just go ahead right away and click that Go to Parent button to back out one step. Our blue side should now at least show up looking like that image with our catty corner fragile stamp on it. This one did have a specular level. We can go into our maps rollout, find our specular level there as well, but you've also got that little, don't forget, empty channel button up here under our specular level in the Blend Basic parameters as well. Go ahead and click that, select Bitmap, OK. Crate 4 Specular. This is the one with our little invisible piece of box tape on it, so that should be nice and shiny when we're done. And say Open. If I double click that sample to open up a larger window, you can see definitely that our invisible box tape, as soon as the light catches it, definitely does show up shinier than the rest of the box. And that's just kind of a great way to give it some subtle detail that you know, it makes it seem more realistic. Again, no changes need to be made in the bitmap. Go ahead and hit the Go to Parent button once and load in that same image that we've done for the rest of them for our bump channel. Bitmap, bump. And then go ahead and hit that Go to Parent button once and twice to back right out of it. Last but not least, one last side here, our purple side, our crate number 5. Go ahead and dig into it, give it that name. Crate Side number 5. Toggle on the Show Shaded Material in Viewport button so that it'll show up once we add the image. And inside the diffuse, select Bitmap and Crate number 5 diffuse texture. Say Open. Hit the Go to Parent button once to back out to the top. We do have a specular level map to go in with this one, so let's go ahead and hit the specular level channel button there. Bitmap. Whoops, I added the wrong thing. Right click clear, we can back out of that and try again. Bitmap, and then you'll notice that I don't have a specific one for crate number 5, but the stamps and all of the stuff that could be a little bit shinier actually it matches our crate number 1 specular. So we'll just reuse that rather than make a completely separate image, taking up data space on our hard drives, etc. We'll reuse that crate 1 specular for our 5th side of that crate. You can kind of see how this stuff works without doing any extra work or going overboard. Go ahead and open that one up, hit the Go to Parent button to back out, and finally we'll open up our maps rollout here and add in that same bump map once more, the final time down here. None channel button, bitmap, bump. Open. Now we can go to Parent once and go to Parent twice, and we can take a look at our crate here. All the sides now look like wood, and as we spin around this thing, we've got 5 different images displaying on 6 different sides of this crate. So we're already off to a good start. But if you're like me, we want to have full control over this thing, and we want, I don't want this same fragile stamp on the top as I do on this side. It just kind of looks a little wrong to me. So I want to be able to organize top, bottom, and all the sides the way I want them. So next we're going to show you how to move and change around which face of this box displays which texture. I'm going to go ahead and close out my material editor here because the rest has to do with our polygon settings. And just so that we can go ahead and see, let me Alt-W to make this viewport a little bit bigger for us, just so we can see all the detail and all that specularity and bump map stuff that we did here. Let's go up to our Views menu, Show Materials in Viewport As, and then we'll select that very last one from the list, Realistic Materials with Maps. 3D Studio will probably think for a moment, but your box's specularity and that bump wood grain should show up nicely now, even in the viewport. And you can see all that wonderful kind of detail that you did in Photoshop, real time, just like a video game, show up for us. So that's pretty cool stuff right there. All right, now reorganizing these things. Let's select our box and head back over to our Modify tab, where we can open up that little black plus sign and select Polygon. Same way would be to select the little red square from our selection icons down here if you want to select it via the icon button. But both of them will change and both of them go to the same place. Let's take a look at this box here. Let's say we've got a top, a bottom, and 4 different sides. If this is me, I want my bottom to have no graphic on it, my sides to have the most graphics, and my top to maybe have one of them but not the majority. So right now we've got a lot of things that are a little bit backwards. The one on the bottom is the one that I kind of want to be the one on the top. The one on this side is the one I kind of want to be for the bottom of my crate, etc. So what we need to do is over in our Edit Poly settings, we're going to scroll down until we find the rollout that says Polygon Material IDs. Again, if I quickly kind of hit M to open up our material editor, you'll notice that in our multi-sub-object shader here, we've got this ID column that I told you we'd be using in the future. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Different ID number for each one of the sides of our crate, the different shaders, the different textures that we have added here. If I select a single polygon from our crate, in this case the side with no graphics on it whatsoever, you'll see that the Set ID and Select ID fields change based on which polygon I click to select. If I select the one with no graphics whatsoever, it tells me that that's ID number 3, corresponding to crate side number 3 and our texture ID number 3. If I want the bottom of my box to be the one with no graphics, since it's sitting on the ground, usually no one can see that, why put all the warnings that say fragile on the bottom of the crate? I'm going to select it. It currently has the set ID number of 2. All I have to do is change that 2 to 3 and hit the Enter on my keyboard to make it official and change that over. The bottom of my crate then changes. That little wine glass stamp disappears. Likewise for the top, right? The top is the one that I kind of wanted to have just that little wine glass stamp on, because the top's not quite as important maybe as the sides of the crate if it's going to be in a warehouse or something like that. and that was, since we just changed it away from that, ID number 2. If you need to kind of dig back in here and double check which image is which, you can, but you can see here that crate number 2 texture is material ID number 2, and it kind of works out pretty well. So I'll grab this top polygon here, change that set ID to 2, and remember to hit either enter or tab to make the change official there. This side says our fragile stamp with our wine glass. It's the one with a little bit of a burn mark. The one opposite is pretty much the same thing without that burn mark, so we can leave that go the way it is. And then this side is our kind of catty corner with our fragile stamp. That's fine. And maybe we want it on the other side as well. Just because we've only got 5, we can do 2 on 1. This catty corner fragile side is set ID number 4. So we just have to go to the other side and match it. Change that to 4, hit enter to make it official, and then unselect our polygon sub-objects and take a look at what we've done here. The bottom has a little information, or the bottom has no information, the top has a little information, and all the sides have our really cool fragile and all the information that our shipping characters will need to move these crates around successfully. That's how we're going to use multi-sub-object materials. Just to take this a little further, let's kind of do some simple polygon modeling to make this simple box look a little bit more like our crate, as well as talk about something about the coordinates. Right now it's using the base coordinates from our original box, which no longer exists, right? This is now an editable poly. So one thing that we're going to want to do, just to be standard, and because this is going to happen on any other objects that's more complex than a box is, we're going to have to add something that has those UVW coordinates, just like the first video demonstration here for Module 3. Down here towards the bottom, I'm going to add that UVW map modifier that we started talking about this week, which is going to look like it's going to really mess my box up a little bit because it defaults with planar. Just remember, go ahead and hit that radio button next to box, and hopefully all of your textures should show right back up to where they were. Defaulted, that gizmo looks pretty good where it's at, right? So we've got this fitting. Just for good measure, you can always hit that fit button down here to make sure that it aligns directly to each face or each side of your box. And now that that information is at the top of our stack, that UVW map coordinate system, we can actually kind of come back down in here to our editable poly and do some extrudes and some basic polygon modeling if we want, cut in some new edges and maybe extrude these boards out to match our textures a little bit. So if we come in here with one of our sub-objects, this will be one way of doing it. There's probably several hundred different ways of getting the same results. We'll do it kind of a simple one this time. Let's go to our edge sub-object selection. And what we want to do is make some cuts and create some new polygons, which we can then just simply extrude out to make them look like actual dimensional boards rather than just something with a painted on texture that looks a little too flat for our tastes. We still want to keep it low poly since we decided this was more of a game asset. So we'll attempt to keep it as low poly as we possibly can. What we're going to do is select one of these edges. Let's go ahead and select one of the top corner edges here. And we're going to use these selection tools here. Ring and loop come in very handy. I want to select all of the edges that go around kind of vertically in this direction here of our crate. So if I use ring, it'll select anything that is in a ring, 2, 3, 4, that it can see. Let me unselect there and just try this one again, show you loop. If I use loop, it's going to try and select all of the ones that are connected in a loop rather than opposing that ring. Right now it doesn't really recognize these as a loop right now, so it's a little fussy, but we can work with it here. Go ahead and hit ring this time because we want to select all these guys going around. And we're going to use under our edit edges rollout here the connect button, which will connect all of those edges we currently had selected with a brand new edge. Going to kind of cut it right down the middle here. That's kind of a nice quick way of cutting all the way through an object when you want to get an edge, brand new edge to kind of add some detail to this thing. We're going to use another trick. Well, another one of my favorite tools is this chamfer over here. Rather than using the actual button this time, we're going to come next door to its tiny little companion button here, the settings button. And we will open up this little floating dialog box of settings here. The top number here, is going to be how far apart that edge gets split or chamfered into two different edges. So we can kind of push that out to match our texture the way we did there. The second number will add polygons in between, and this kind of works really good if you want to get a rounded out edge to a corner of something or add more than one edge in there. We don't, so we're just going to leave that set at 1 and try to get these two spread apart to match our boards from our texture. Then just go ahead and hit that check mark button to make it official. We're going to do this again for the other two sides, right? We did it all the way around this side, but now we've got to do it on this side all the way around. So select one of the other corners that doesn't have those edges now cut in, and go ahead and hit the ring button to select all the way around the other direction. Connect, and then hit that chamfer settings button, and hopefully it will have kept those exact same settings, which should match what we did for our textures without any trouble. Go ahead and hit the check mark button to make that one official. So all the way around the sides now we've got a polygon cut in for these edges. We can do the same thing going around horizontally. Let's select an edge on our box, this time the corner that isn't on the top edge but the side edge of our box, and hit that ring to select those guys all the way around. We can hit connect once again to draw that right through the middle. And chamfer again should actually, even with those standard settings we just used for the last ones, push brand new edges all the way out and all the way around our crate there. So all we have to do is hit that check mark button again. Now all we've got to worry about is this center beam, this bracing beam here that we've made for our crate. So let's select that corner edge from the center there one more time, hit ring once again to select all the way around, and hit connect to draw one more line right through the middle of our crate. And let's kind of move that into the middle of our, what we're looking at here is our supporting middle board that we did for our box. And let's go to that chamfer settings again. This time the last ones that we used will not work, so we need to reduce those greatly and just try to match them up to that texture that we created. You can also always use just your move tool to kind of move those up and down a little bit in case you got it a little catty corner off. That board was not perfectly centered when I created the texture in the first place. Just get it the best way you can. Hit that check mark button again to go all the way through, and we'll have some polygons cut in all the way around our box. The top and bottom also have a center brace, and we have not cut in anything for those as well. We won't need them all the way down this side, but just to keep things clean, we'll do this the exact same way. Select again that top cornered edge there, and we'll hit ring to go all the way around the center portion of our crate. And once again, we'll hit connect to draw in that line. We might try to adjust a little bit by just pushing those over with our move tool a little, and then hit chamfer, and those settings should hopefully kind of keep pretty good to that texture. We can always move it a little bit with our move tool if we need to. Okay, that looks pretty good. Go ahead and hit the check mark button there. And now we've got all of the edges cut in that we're going to need. Now it's a simple matter of extruding some of these boards in and out. Let's go to our polygon subobject selection here. And what we want to do is select this guy. In fact, it's going to be a little dangerous to leave your move tool on. I suggest coming up here and just getting your select tool so that you don't accidentally click and drag and move one of these polygons and make it look all deformed and catty-cornered and moved incorrectly. Our select tool allows us to select these faces and modify them without changing any of their base location axes. And then we're going to hold down Control on our keyboards and just kind of select all the interior space between these boards that run around the edges, right? On all of these different sides of our crate. We're also going to go through the top and get those. Control, click, control, click, control, click. Hold down control and click to your heart's content. You've got all of these guys selected like this. Then we're going to come over to our extrude button in the edit polygons rollout. Again, click the little settings companion button next door to bring up some of these settings. The easiest way to do this, since we've already got our UVW coordinates kind of set up for this box, is not to extrude them out by local normals, but to extrude them in. First thing we do is we have a little drop down up here. We want to make sure that it's set by local normal. Looks like it defaulted there for me, but if it didn't for you, just make sure that you've set by local normal, which is the direction that these polygons are facing. Group tries to do them all together at one time, and by polygon would separate every single place that we've made an edge. So by local normal, by the direction that the sides of our crate are facing. And then the second number is the direction and how far we want this extrude to go. It defaults us with 10, which is why we get this kind of jutting out or protruding out extrusion here. We just want to reduce that to maybe a negative 1.5. Just to, well, let's even go negative 2.5 maybe, and give ourselves just a little bit of an intrusion there, depending on how thick you want those boards. Right? I just lost those. Depending on how thick you want these the outside boards to look. Negative 2.5 looks pretty good for that crate, I think. So I'll go ahead and hit the check mark to make it official. Now all we need to do is extrude our center bracing boards to make this crate look a little bit more as it should. Looks like when I extruded a few of my lines here got a little bit off. But that's okay. We can always select by vertice. That's another thing too, right? They're not off, but when we had our polygons here, the display is a little off. But know that when you go back up to the top there and unselect your polygons, that it jumps right back. So that's not too bad. It's just something we'll have to work around. Let's go back to our polygons here, and we want to select one. Control select, control click on these center boards that go all the way through here. And one for the top, and one for the bottom. And once again, we'll come over to our companion button to the extrude, the settings button here. And instead of a negative number, let's do a positive 1.0. So that we extrude those boards back out a little ways. If you want to go directly halfway, 1.25 is halfway between 2.5. Computer's fighting me a little bit there. There we go. And just extrude those boards back out, and when you're happy, go ahead and hit that checkmark button. Always remember to unselect your sub-objects when you're using polygon modeling tools. And then remember to click at the top of the stack just to make sure that all the information being displayed is right back there at the top. There we have it. A multi-sub-object textured using the textures we created from Photoshop with some actual polygon modeling and some boards and crates. You're ready to start populating your game worlds or animated scenes.